Hi everyone, it's Emily here, and I am in for a real treat this morning. It's a nice morning in Boston. The sun is out. I have my Olga's coffee, and I'm sitting here with quite possibly one of my most favorite people, Christine Lawson. Hi, Christine.
Hi, I can say the same. I'm sitting with, one of my favorite people. The other half is missing currently, but that's okay. You suffice too.
So we could call her down. She's upstairs in the other part of the office working, but then I think we could be here all day if the three of us are left alone in a room together. So I think our listeners are really familiar with this, and that like Jamie and I like to bring on real parents to the podcast and real NAPS parents. And so, we have done this in the past, or we have our clients come on, or, moms or dads or parents who work with us. And I am so excited. I obviously, a lot of people have a love for NAPS. We can agree on that.
Mhm.
I gotta tell y'all out there listening though, Christine could quite possibly be the biggest NAPS super fan that Jamie and I have ever encountered in our lives.
I do have a
want to,
tattoo that
tell the
says,
people.
I have a tattoo that says I heart naps underneath my sleeve. No.
I would believe you. I wouldn't be surprised.
Nurtured by naps on my back for sure.
But do you want to just tell people like what I'm
Yeah.
teasing, but I'm dead serious. Tell them how you learned about naps and a quick and dirty version of all that you've done with naps.
Oh my word. Okay. So thank you for having me on. It's an honor. So my journey with NAPS started when I moved to Swampscott. So it was 2020, peak of the pandemic. I got pregnant and it was planned, which was great. We moved from Watertown to Swampscott, and I hope this person is okay with giving me a shout out, but she is also a NAPS super fan and went through your program to be a support mom as well. I forget the name of that program. What is that called again? That you have your
mom,
MSG.
certified leader program. Yeah.
Yes. So Carolyn Allen is actually, I know, right? Another superstar fan
She
of
is
NAPS.
actually quite the super fan as well. So we should have a bucket of ball.
We should. So I was actually out on a walk, very pregnant and not feeling well, like miserable. Surprise, surprise, Emily, you can relate. And, it was my husband and our dog, and we just ran into this fantastic little family, sweet woman. Her husband was there and her little one. And we just started chatting. She's like, "Did you move into the area?" We're like, "Yeah." We're like, "Oh, young parents." She's like, "Oh, you're having a baby, blah, blah, blah." So we just had regular distance walked because obviously it was the peak of the pandemic. And she brought up to me, she's like, "Hey, have you ever heard of NAPS?" I'm like, "You know what I did? I was like, I saw them online. I did a Google search for resources for parents because I have no idea what I'm doing." And she's like, "You have to sign up. Let me tell you, they changed my life." And the rest is history, as you know.
Gosh. Caroline, if you're listening, we love you so much.
Love you so much.
And I'll tell people too who are listening, so Caroline Allen, who is an NAPS client, is one of our certified MSG leaders, which means she went through our training program and runs support groups for parents. Yes. So I am going to plug her really quick because it's organic. Oh, yeah. She's located on the North Shore. Her company is the Mom Connection, and she runs support groups and is certified through NAPS, and she's awesome. Yeah. So
she's fantastic. Yes. So basically that's what happened. I got, it was right when you went online for Nurture by NAPS, because it was synchronicity at its finest, right? The timing of it. And I remember signing up and I'm like, this is amazing. Not only am I type A and this is an educational piece, right? You have courses and you have modules and steps and stages and to-do lists. I'm like, this is right up my alley. This is perfect. It's a how to become a mom and a partner. This is great. So without getting overwhelmed in the beginning, because of course I wanted to read everything and watch everything on the platform, my husband and I made a little date day out of it. And every Saturday morning we would have our tea or our coffee in bed, no matter how sick I was, which I was very sick in both my pregnancies. And we would just choose like what one we were going to watch. And we would take notes and we would ask questions. Then I learned the feature of the 24-hour message board with the nurses, which was great. Even though I didn't have a baby yet, they were able to help me through pregnancy questions, aches, pains, questions that I had coming up in the future. And it was great. And then, little did I know, and I know we'll touch upon this a little bit later, but I actually was suffering postpartum depression in my pregnancy and I had no idea. In my head, I thought postpartum depression was postpartum. I had no idea that you could actually suffer those same symptoms. And as scary and painful as pregnancy in itself is, this made it even worse. So
And
I
by the
was,
way, for people
yeah.
listening, especially if you're pregnant, it's very common to develop postpartum depression
Mhm.
or these symptoms of mood disorder in pregnancy.
Oh,
In
yeah.
fact, providers should be screening for these symptoms in pregnancy through postpartum in that first year, which a
Mhm.
lot of people don't know. So I'm glad you actually brought that up.
Yeah, it was scary because you don't want to admit it either. I mean, talk about how do you complain about being pregnant and anxious when you're in the middle of a pandemic? No one was caring
Well,
about
putting
what
aside
I
even
was.
just admitting it, like, did
Yeah,
you even really know? Like, you know
no.
now, but
Mhm.
in that moment, it probably wasn't even you admitting it to someone. Did you even know to tell somebody? Because you didn't even
No,
know
I
it
just
was
thought
a
that this
thing.
is, yeah, I
Yeah.
just thought this is what everyone went through. And like, you just
Doesn't
have to like
everybody feel
suck
this
it up,
way?
buttercup. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Right.
if she got through it, I can get through it, that type of mentality. And it was such a scary time as well. Like, I didn't have any friends going through what I was going through, right? None of my friends at the time were pregnant. They were either still getting married or they were traveling the world, which was amazing, right? But for me, I was just felt so alone. So naps to me was like a little hug. And I think that that's what like really, and I won't get emotional on this, but like it's truly what it felt like. Like I felt like I had sisters and family members right there with me when I was watching you and Jamie laugh your butts off and make fun of each other. I mean, it was almost like stand-up comedy at some points. Like Michael and I would be like hitting each other because we were laughing so hard at you guys. And we're just like, oh my God, they are amazing. Like I
Honestly,
cannot
when
wait
Jamie
to
and I
meet
are
these
like
women.
screwing around or being idiots like that, I'm like, I wonder if people like even think we're funny.
Oh,
We think we're funny. We get a kick out of ourselves.
100%.
People out there are probably like,
100%.
you're idiots.
No, 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 no. I was like, yes, these are my kind of women. Real, they they're tough. You're like, hey, listen, this is what you need to do. We're not going to sugarcoat it. This is the reality of it. And I love that because I needed that. I needed that tough love.
Yeah.
So, in a long-winded way, through some, severe anxiety episodes, crying on the couch, sobbing, I mean, for no reasons, trying to bring it up with my OBGYN at the time, but like very nervous to admit that I felt like I had a problem, right? They had suggested maybe medicine. And at the time, I'm like, no, 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 I can't take
Right.
medicine. That's not what I do. I fix this myself, right?
Right.
So it was probably right before I was like ready. We did the pre-baby boot camp,
Yeah.
which was hilarious. The balloon and the ping pong ball. I mean, like Michael and I still sometimes look at the video and just like laugh because Jamie was like howling throughout the whole entire thing. It was so
Yeah.
funny.
Poor
We learned how
baby
to
on the balloon.
swaddle with yeah, exactly. Swaddling with like our stuffed animals. And Michael was very excited that he did it the fastest because we're competitive. So yeah.
Yeah.
And
Listen,
it
people,
was
if you come to pre-baby boot camp, we will not show you a video of a baby coming out of
mm-mm.
someone else's vagina because that's just like not cool. But we will mail you ridiculous balloons and ping pong balls and show you how a baby can be birthed in a different way. It's ridiculous.
It was a beautiful visual explanation and I loved it.
Oh my
Um
goodness.
so yeah, so it was probably like, I don't know, March, and I was due at the end of March. And I just started getting like, why am I not getting contractions? What am I supposed to feel? Like what's going on? And being able to go back to the platform and like really kind of like tick off those check marks of like, hey, this is what you're going through. We're almost there.
Mhm.
And then it came April and the baby was not here yet. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why? Like, what can I do? Like, do I have to hang upside down? Do I have to go like run? Do I have to eat spicy food? Like, what's going on? And my OBGYN, love her, she was like, "So we're gonna induce you because you're at like 42 weeks." And I'm like, "Get this baby out of me. I don't care what you do," right? Like,
Oh my
geez.
God, I can't even. I could barely like even my kids all came at 38 weeks and
Oh,
change. And
yeah,
like I could barely even
yeah,
make it. Like I couldn't even
yeah.
imagine getting to 40 weeks, let alone 42.
Yeah, with your first pregnancy too. And I'm like, I don't want to play God. I don't want to make this decision. Like, let the baby co-. No, by the
Right.
end of it, I'm like, do whatever you need to do to get this child out of me. So now
Totally.
they're talking about inducing me, and I'm having a massive panic attack. And I think that this is what changed me from being a client to like a true, like, feeling like you personally had my back as an individual. You I'll never forget. I was emailing Jamie, and I think it was like a panic email because it was like this long, you know what I mean? And it just had words. It was like a word salad. It was just horrible. It was just like,
Mhm.
what is this drug that they're going to be putting in me? Is that normal? I googled it and it says it's not FDA approved and blah, 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 blah. I mean, total anxiety.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to go to sleep and try to get some sleep before I go in. And I remember waking up and I saw a phone number from Rhode Island. And I'm like, what is this? I was like, let me just pick
Yeah.
up. And she goes, hey. I'm like, hello? She's like, it's Jamie. And I just start sobbing, like,
Oh,
just like literally in bed, like, oh my God, you called me. Like, thank you so much. And she talked me through, I have goosebumps, like talking about it. She talked me through everything, what was going to happen, what to expect, not to worry. She told me to stop Googling things, which was a big part. And that is truly the moment that like I said, I switched over from client to like a personal investment in this
right.
company because you changed my life at that moment. I can't imagine other people and what they go through. And then it just only got better. I mean, through realizing I had postpartum depression, getting me through our first son sleeping through the night, being the tough cookie that Jamie is as well with the sleep training, and like saying, hey, Christine, you're the weak one, send your husband in, like
Oh
to do
yeah.
the checks.
You got to identify who's the weakest link in sleep training. In my
I
house,
was,
everyone knows it's me, actually.
yeah,
My husband,
same.
he's a solid one.
Same, Emily. We share a lot of common traits, but
We really do.
in all good ways though. So yeah, so I mean you truly just like helped me through so much. I felt I honestly wouldn't be the parent I am today, and I know I say that at nausea, but like it's true. I would not know how to communicate with my partner, how to set boundaries with family members. I mean, how to be the best version of myself to my child, right?
Yeah.
Taking care of myself, not being nervous to, give them a piece of avocado or toast when they're 6 months old. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just really having that confidence. And that went straight through then. And I think, Emily, hearing your podcast about your mental health journey too really helped me.
Well, for those who are not new here, y'all know I'm no stranger to talking about mental health or anxiety. Um, which is why I was actually so excited to even have you come on today, because we're teasing that you and I share so much in common, but we actually really do.
Hmm.
And I feel like, and I know that you're okay with me asking you about these things because
Yeah.
I asked you before you came on, but I think that where we miss the mark in society is that we don't talk about these things. And
Mm-mm.
I would love to talk a little bit about, you referenced obviously having like anxiety when you were pregnant, and like that's when it really came
Mhm.
up for you. And I know, because we know each other, that you struggled after your first baby, but I
Mhm.
also know that you just had a second baby.
Yes, I did.
Like, shit ain't perfect, but for all intents and purposes, like, you're thriving. And I think that this is a great example to stop and get a real person in the
Yeah.
room, just like I've been through it. And people can listen to other things or hear more about my story. I struggled after my first big time, a
Mm.
little bit after my second. Feel like I did it right the third time, maybe third time's a charm, but like, I do feel like you had your experience the first time with like support in place, but you even
Mhm.
like are so much better the second time. And
Oh,
it's
for
like,
sure.
can we actually just have a moment to acknowledge a little bit of like what you went through the first time
Mhm.
and like what you're doing differently this time?
Yeah.
and be like
For
fucking
sure.
real about it, because like we're both real moms sitting here,
Yeah,
and I know that everybody out there listening is going through it or is going to go through it
yeah,
or has been through it, and like having these real open honest conversations is going to be what helps everybody,
for sure. And I
right?
think, that confidence piece and the stigma, once I was able to get rid of the stigma, so I'll never forget. It was the first 3 months, right? So our son was born in April, our firstborn. And the first 2 weeks, it's like the honeymoon stage. Everything's great. You're like, oh, my baby slept in a crib, ba ba ba. He, he's eating this many ounces, like all is great. My parents were still there, who
Check, check,
shout
check,
out to
check
my,
the
yeah,
boxes.
I'm like, boom, boom. I'm so type A, like I said, that I'm like, I'm a superhero. I need to get an A+ here, whatever. And my parents were there. Well, I have to give a shout out to my parents and our support, because as you taught me, you got to create your support group and your support circle
Oh
and
yeah,
reference them on a regular basis for when you need advice and when you need to set the boundaries. And we both could not have done this without my parents. So shout out to them. But, they left after 2 weeks, and my husband and I are like, high five, and we got this. No, no, we didn't have it at all. Our firstborn was acid reflux, dairy allergy, throwing up where it could, like, hit the wall. We had colic. I mean, and everything just came crashing down at once. Mind you, we were also selling our condo in Southie, moving from Swampscott to New Jersey, and buying a house in New Jersey, all while my nephew was being diagnosed with brain cancer. So you can imagine, whole picture here. It was a nightmare.
and just for like context too, at this point, did you know that you were struggling
No,
with
no,
anxiety, with postpartum anxiety that had
no.
actually started in your pregnancy?
No, I had no idea. I just thought, this is the rest of my life. This is horrible.
Yeah,
What's going on? I was so
right.
depressed. I would have these outbursts, and I'll be honest, because life is so much better now, but like I would have these random outbursts of just like rage and anger, and like never anything against my son, thank goodness, because I do know that there are people out there who do suffer on many different levels, and everyone's
Right.
pain and suffering looks completely different. But for me personally, I was just so angry. I was angry at my husband, who is a saint and can do no wrong. But to me at the time, he did everything wrong. You know what I mean? I was frustrated with my family, my parents, myself. I wasn't sleeping. I would like, I remember being in my bedroom and like throwing my phone across the room because I just was so frustrated. And
Yeah.
the sobbing, I can't even explain like that pain I felt while crying. And it got to the point where I literally said out loud, I was just like, they would be better off without me. And once I hit that point of complete depression and actually thinking that, like, I could be hit by a bus tomorrow and everyone else would be
Yeah.
better,
They'll
like
be better off. Yep.
they'll be better off without me because I'm just causing pain and frustration. I literally, like, that was my breaking point. And I was like, I need help. I need help. I had a therapist at the time, I still do, love her,
Mhm.
but I just sat there and I was like, this needs more than just talking. Like, there's something wrong and
Yeah.
I need to figure this out, else this isn't going to work. And I love my children more than anything. I love my husband more than anything.
There you
And
do.
my and I needed it to work. I needed it to work, right? And
Right.
to think that I had gotten that low was so scary. So I talked to my therapist and she was like, I think that you should go on some medicine, but I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't prescribe it.
Right.
So she put me in touch with a psychiatrist. And at the time, I was also part of your MSG group for new moms. And
Hmm.
I even remember not being okay in that group, like wanting to just like separate myself from it. And
Right.
that's so unique for me because I'm a people person. So the fact that I didn't want to be involved in this amazing group, like these were all red flags I just wasn't associating at the time.
Right.
And I was put on medicine. I was put on a small dosage of remember what I was first, something with a P. You would know. What was it?
Prozac?
Uh, Prozac. Yeah, that's what it was. My mom brain over here, mashed potatoes. Um
Fellow Prozac friend over here.
so I was on that and it was night and day. Like immediately. It was like the heavens opened up. You know the song like I can see clearly now.
Now
Like,
the rain is
yeah.
gone. Yeah.
Literally, that's how I felt. And my family noticed, and believe
Oh,
it or not, all of a sudden my son, no more sleepless nights, no more colic, no more. It's like he knew. Like, you know what I mean? I
yeah.
don't know if you had that experience with your children too.
Well, I did, and it wasn't that Grace got better. It was
Mm,
that I could manage her differently, right?
right, right.
Like I was making problems out of things that weren't as big of problems as they felt in that moment. Because I was
Hmm.
obsessing about her sleep. I was
Oh my
obsessed
gosh,
about her
same.
reflux. I was so tired. I was irritable as well, which a
Oh,
lot of
for
people
sure.
realize anxiety, panic can manifest in anger and irritability. And
Hmm.
so
Oh,
then you
mine
think,
does,
oh
100%.
yeah, like touching and too much volume
Oh,
and
for sure.
right. And so, but yes, everything did get better because I was better. I was
It's
better so that
true.
I could get my baby into a better place.
I mean,
Um,
I was doing like oh, I only rocked him 5 times rather than 15, and that's why he's not sleeping. Or I would say to my
oh yeah,
husband, like, "Oh, I was like, you swaddled him wrong," or like just silly
yeah.
things where, I'm just like, I have no
You
control over
swallowed it
any
wrong.
of this.
That's
Right.
like
Oh, of
people
course.
listening though will understand that. Like when we're coming at our partners over dumb shit, it's like you're not holding the bottle right. You didn't swaddle them tight enough. The diaper's
100%.
not tight. You're not doing
Yep.
it right. You're not doing it right.
Mhm.
And it's like when you step back and you're like, dude, like I'm just being fucking crazy right now. That actually doesn't matter. Like that doesn't matter. But when you're anxious and you haven't slept and you're irritable, like it's the ridiculous the stuff
It's
that you like
insane.
come at,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But that's a red
So
flag. So
yeah,
we gotta let people know that too. Like ding, ding, ding,
100%.
red flag. Like
Yeah, she's not
red
just
flag is like,
hormonal. She's
yeah,
not just, in a
I
bad
know,
mood, or she's not just
I know.
stressed or whatever. It's like she's not doing well, and like
Yeah,
ask her how she is. Ask your partners too, because it's not just in females postpartum depression. Men can also get it, as
I
you
know.
know. And I have a family member who went through that, and it's just talk about it. And I say talk about it because obviously I'm an advocate for mental health for myself, but like through NAPS also. But for
Right.
me, what I found when I felt better, I swore to myself I would never let another friend, family member, or stranger go through what I went through. And
Right.
I have no shame in saying that I take Zoloft now. I have no shame in saying that I don't feel well if I don't take it, that it's my crutch, that it's my, the way my doctor prescribed it, haha, described it, was, she, that was a good one. She said, there's, there's, there's reasons why medicine exists. And it's not a fault of yours if your brain is not wired properly. There's nothing you're doing to make the brain waves, disconnect at some point that makes you feel this way.
Yeah.
Medicine, all it does is just helps put them right back.
Yeah. I love that.
Exactly. And there's no harm, there's no shame. Like that's what medicine is for. You're not less strong or less of a mom if you have to take it, or we have to get out of that mindset that
Right.
unfortunately comes from previous generations, and shame and guilt and stigmas. Because I can say now Zoloft, Prozac wasn't for me, so I had to get off of it. Um, but going into my second pregnancy, which, coming full circle, it was, I sit here and I say, gosh, I wish I was on this pill earlier. Like, gosh, I wish I listened to Jamie and Emily when they said X, Y, and Z. And I say Jamie and Emily, but it's the whole team, obviously.
Right.
And I look back at my husband and I laugh. We're like, haha, remember when we used to do this with our first? And now I don't even know like how long our second napped, and it's okay. And like he,
I know.
he might have eaten 10 bottles today and I have no idea the amount, but hey, he's sleeping, he's eating, he's pooping, he's peeing, and he's thriving. Like, I used to
Yeah.
mark down how long we did tummy time because I was stressed that if I didn't, he would never walk or something crazy. And now I'm like, huh, look, he can lift his head up.
I show up for my third
Amazing.
baby and they're like, are you doing tummy time? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe sometime. I don't fucking know. Maybe at
Yeah.
maybe once. I don't remember.
Oh, we like we go out with our infant now. Like I
I
kid you not, like
know.
we
I
take him
know.
everywhere. And now my husband and I's lives, like our
Right.
personal lives, our marriage, it's insane to think when you can compare the two and what I do different now. I just care less about the things that you can't control. I
Hmm.
feel more confident as a parent because I trust myself more that what I did with the first, right or wrong, he's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just follow my gut instinct. And I think Jamie says it great whenever, I bring this up. She goes, do you want to do this? Like, what do you want to do? And I say, X, Y, and Z. I don't want to feed him hummus at night because he throws it all over the place. And she'll say, then don't give him hummus. Like that's how you parent. And
Totally.
there's like, that's it. You're the parent, you're in charge. And whatever
Yeah.
you do is right because it's your
Right.
choice.
Totally. Uh,
It's so wild. So
so
yes.
I wanna think about this too, that like obviously part of what Jamie and I want is for people in an ideal world to like invest in themselves
Mhm.
throughout pregnancy and postpartum through naps, right? To like set yourself up for success. But I do want to call out, you did do that and you did still struggle because
Oh, for sure.
but I want to talk about that a little bit, right? Like it's not to prevent,
Mm-mm.
maybe we can prevent things, right? It's not that we're going to prevent things, it's that we know the risk is very high. It's very high. And so you were someone who came to pre-baby boot camp where we talk about mental health in both parents. You had support through us, through Nurture and through services postpartum. You were
Mhm.
in a peer support group and you experienced prenatal and postpartum anxiety.
Mhm.
And I'd like to
Yep.
know, no pressure, um, do you feel like you were able, and you had a therapist,
Mhm.
which is
Still
great,
do. Love her.
right? So what happened for you different, perhaps, because you had that support already there when you went through this? Do you actually feel like you were able to recognize where you were
Mm.
differently, or was your partner able to recognize it? Because like when you're in it, you're in it. Like what
Yeah.
was different for you? Because again, not going to prevent it. 1 in 4
Mm.
women this will happen. And so like,
Yeah.
and then how did you utilize that village differently this time?
Yeah, I think what it took was a lot of self-awareness on my end. I did
Mhm.
need to kind of, there wasn't someone in my life saying, knock, 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 like, you're going through it, you need this. Like, it wasn't my mom, wasn't my partner. My partner, I mean, my husband's amazing, but, I think he was a little scared, to be honest, to say something, which
Yeah,
most partners are, obviously. I mean,
especially
they
if
just,
our symptoms are anger and irritability.
they're like, no way.
When I was like in a state of panic, by the way, postpartum, after one of my babies, I was so angry and anxious, and I was holding a cup of coffee, and I had no intentions of throwing it. But my husband said to me like that morning, like that you were like that. He's like, I actually thought you were gonna maybe throw your
Yeah. Oh,
coffee at
for
me.
sure. Oh,
And
and
I
you
was like,
probably wanted to.
I think I probably did. I
Yeah.
like saw something in my eyes and was like, oh my God, like,
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like, I think for
crazy.
my experience, it was definitely the help through my therapist. I think I just like got through to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like,
Yeah,
so this isn't working. And I need
right.
to find a way. And even if it doesn't help, at least it's a path, it's an option. And what I now do for my friends or family, like I said, I'm the biggest advocate. I mean, I've spoken to strangers about medicine, about NAPS, obviously, as you know. But I literally say there, I'm like, hey, listen, like if you suffer, and this is the only piece that I think will stick is like if you suffer from postpartum depression and you got help, talk to other women about it. I think
Right.
that that's how we're going to help this world feel like we're in a safer place as we go through this journey because I know for firsthand one of my best friends was suffering like really bad and I saw the red flags and I said, you know what? This person can either hate me if I say this or they can make a change, but either way, I can't live with myself getting a
Right.
phone call that heaven forbid something happened
Right.
that I love this person so much that
Yeah.
I'm going to risk our friendship to make sure that they're okay. Because when they come out on the other side, they might not thank me. It's not for the thank yous. I just know that that person's better. And I am so happy I did, because not only did I get them on Nurture by Naps, obviously, because I was like, this will change your life, I promise you. But I also suggested being on medicine. And to this day, that person says, if it was not for your courage and your strength to like step up to me and say, hey, you need help and I want
Yeah,
to help you. This is my story. I would have never had the confidence to do it. And that's why I say, we got to get rid of these, and I'm not on social media, as you know, so maybe I'm a little less affected by what is put out there, but I
right.
can't even imagine that on top of it, feeling like you're constantly viewing these perfect parents and the highlight reel of their life, because that pressure on top of feeling the way that I was feeling, unimaginable, you
Right,
know?
right. And people may or may not need medicine too. I think there is this,
Very true. Very true. Side
I
note, you
remember,
might not need medicine, might
no,
not
no,
be
no.
your go-to,
I'm to
but
be very clear. I'm super glad that we're talking about this. Like I want, but I had this moment where I remember when we first started this podcast. If we rewind a little bit, you almost referenced that when you were pregnant, you didn't say something to your doctor because you were worried that they might just put you on medicine, right?
put me on medicine or take my kid away. You don't
Right,
know.
but
You hear
totally,
postpartum
right,
depression and they're like, oh, you can't be a mom. So when you have a
right.
baby, we're probably going to take the baby away from you.
Right. And so I also don't want people to fear, though, telling someone because that's your barrier, because you may or you may not need medicine, right? And like
100%.
there are other things, like you had all your lines in place. You had your peer support, you had us, you had a therapist, you were doing other things to try to get better,
Mm-hmm.
and then you weren't, and then medicine was the right option. So
100%.
there are other things. There's so many layers to this, right? Of things that you can try. But
Mm-hmm.
the first step is actually just opening your mouth and
Yeah.
telling someone how you feel
Yeah.
without the worry of the shame or the judgment or the stigma, to just
Or the
like
burden. The burden is
the
a big
burden.
piece too.
Just open your mouth and tell somebody, and maybe it's me or Jamie, maybe it's you have a therapist, maybe it is your OB because you love them and you trust them, maybe it's a friend like you did for your friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just step one, and then not worrying about like all the other steps that have to come into place after. That's not your job,
100%.
right?
No.
That's not your job. It'll be somebody else's that knows what they're doing. Um, but I am glad that we're
And
talking about medicine, because
yeah.
like a lot of our clients, including myself, are on medicine. And
Mm-hmm.
like there is nothing wrong with that.
No. I think it's hard because when you become a mom and you're prepping to become a mom, especially for the first time, or a parent or a dad or however, you identify, but I feel like you're practicing, you're setting your brain to take care of a child for the rest of your life. You're
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm growing a human, or my partner is growing a human, or I'm using a surrogate, or we're adopting. And like the pressure of feeling, oh my gosh, I have to keep this thing alive and
Mhm.
take care of it. You forget how to take care of yourself. You
Yeah.
forget that, like, oh, I also need to be taken care of and I
Yeah.
need to ask for help. And when you get that feeling of like someone taking care of you, either it be in a hospital when you're giving birth, or a friend or a family member, or like you did for me, that
Mhm.
feeling is really hard to ask for, because you in your head you're like, no, I need to be taking care of someone I can't be taken care of. And once I crossed that bridge, my life changed. Like literally would not be who back to who I feel like I was prior to being a mom, but this new person that I am now with old Christine and being a mom, in that combined
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
I don't know where I would be. It's a
Right.
terrifying thought to think.
So, well, I know you did share with us that like you obviously had a therapist, you stayed on medicine the
Mhm.
second time. I do want to acknowledge that you are postpartum right now. You have a
I
newborn at home.
am.
You have a
12
baby.
weeks, what, this week? Next week? I don't know. My brain.
It's flying.
He's
What is
sleeping. That's all I
one
know.
part of like staying on medicine and keeping in therapy? And I know that you're a member at Nurture, like for people listening that are about to have a baby or they are home with multiple kids, like
Bless your soul.
what is something that you did differently right now? What are you doing differently right now on your maternity leave from before that is making you
Mhm.
feel so much better and successful this time?
Honestly, caring less.
Okay.
Like 100% caring less. Not caring less about my child,
Right.
caring less about the things that I can't control, and just taking the energy that I used to spend on
Mhm.
trying to control everything and refocusing that on sleep for myself,
Mhm.
going for a workout, having a date day, whatever way I can with my husband, catching up with my mom on the phone and not talking about babies, like
Yep.
talking with my girlfriends. I mean, just really using that energy towards my career, my passions, and realizing that like life exists outside of being a parent, and that doesn't make you a bad parent, and that
Mhm.
you can do both. You can have where not 110% is devoted to your child's every second move, inch, crawl, cry, and I'm
Yeah.
still a heck of a mom. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and
Mhm.
that getting rid of that guilt and that shame and that stigma, like I said, and being selfish, I guess, for the first time in a good way, that's definitely what I'm doing different. I'm
Yeah.
washing my hair, I'm showering, I'm
Listen,
doing
the hair
face
looks
routines
good.
at night. It's starting to fall out, which I'm not happy about. But at 3 months, that's what happens for me. But
Oh my gosh, Christine. Well, I do want to be mindful of your time because you are literally doing this podcast with me from home, with a newborn. God bless you.
well,
And
I have to say my
so,
husband is supporting and taking care of right now because we have a great
did you ask
partnership.
for
So
help with that? There you go.
I didn't have to
I
because
love it.
he knew I was doing this, and we've developed this relationship through, I have to say, nurtured by naps. We were nurtured by naps in our
I love
relationship
when you say
too.
that you were nurtured by naps. I was thinking for those listening who are like, I hear Christine, I want to care less. I don't know what you mean or how to do that. Like, please come into Nurture by Naps. Please come onto the
Yes.
board. Come into the membership. And
Talk
it's
to
not Amy
me.
and I
I'm
telling you just care less, but we are going to say to you like, what's going on and what's working, what's not, what matters, what doesn't, and like what do you want to do? What do
yeah,
you want to do? And that is how you, I'm doing quotes, nobody's watching me. That's how you care, right? Like, cause,
yeah,
and like, how do we get you to take care of yourself a little bit better? And
100%.
also, if you are listening to this episode and you resonate with having feelings, whether you're pregnant or postpartum, or you think your partner is like, and if little flags have gone up during this episode and you think you might need resources or to talk to someone or run this by someone, we have a free perinatal packet on mood disorders of how to think about it, how to talk about it, how to ask for help, where to go for help. And if
Mhm.
you DM us, email us, call us, like in any capacity, reach out to us and we can get you those resources if you're listening, or if you have a friend or a family member or whatever. Like, we need to get it to somebody, let us know, and we'll do that. And hopefully somebody is listening to this episode right now and hearing Christine and I and knowing that you are not alone and we are all here
And
for
you're
you.
going to be okay. You're going to be
Yeah.
okay. I promise you. Look at me. I've been through it. There's people who have been through worse. You're going to be okay. And we are all together in it. And that's the best feeling.
I know we are. Oh, Christine, I love you so much. Thank you for
I
being
love
here.
you.
And for all of our listeners, I'll tune in with you next week with Jamie. I'll see everyone soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Christine.